Hello and welcome. You're watching Republic Business. This is Rajya Mishra. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has tabled the economic survey in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And the key highlight of economic survey is that in the economic survey, the growth is pegged at 6.5% to 7% in FY25. To know more about the economic survey and what are the nuances of economic survey and budget, we are joined in by a very special guest, Mr. Neelkanth Mishra, Chief Economist, Axis Bank. Thank you, Mr. Mishra, for joining us and speaking to Republic TV and Republic Business.
Thank you, Rajat. Thank you for having me here.
So, sir, let me begin by asking you a question on economic survey only. Since it's out, it's tabled, and the growth forecast for FY25 is 6.5% to 7%. What are your initial comments as far as growth forecast and outlook is concerned that is mentioned in the economic survey?
No, I do think that our trend growth has moved up to 7%. So, in fact, the years before the pandemic, there had been a slowdown in the economy. The slowdown was driven by a slowdown in capital formation. And we have been saying for a while that our trend growth should be getting bumped up to about 7%. And I think it's very consistent with our view. We have to remember that this also suggests that the growth acceleration, actually the acceleration in perceived growth, now that means is over. So, 1.5 years back, there were many economists who thought that the economy would be growing at 5.5% post-pandemic. And now that consensus is now settled at 7, means that the steady upward revisions to growth forecasts that we were seeing are now behind us. There have been some people who think that maybe trend growth can be 8%. Our view is that we will require a lot of additional reforms and work before we can start looking at 8% as a new trend.
Right. And so also one thing that economic survey mentioned is that private capital formation after good growth in last 3 years may turn slightly cautious because of fears of the cheaper import from other countries. How do you decode this statement? And what do you have to say about it?
Yes, so this is again, I think, a very valid concern. We have seen that GDP growth has been supported by pickup in capital formation. So from about 27% of GDP, fixed capital formation has now jumped up to 31-32%. So recovery has been good. The concern is that the industrial policy is making a big comeback globally. China, which is trying to move its savings or the flow of savings from real estate to something else. That something else, unfortunately for us, turns out to be industrial capacity. So just in the last 4 years, China has allocated $1.9 trillion of additional funds to the industrial capacity. And with that level of overcapacity, with China last month reporting record high trade surplus, other industrial economies, other developed economies as well, are starting to get directly involved in industrial activity. So, which means that if you are an Indian company, I think in sectors like, say, solar manufacturing or chemicals or other areas where the Chinese are dominant, you're likely to be a lot more cautious than you would have been if this was not happening.
Right. And also, so what are the top 3 things that stands out for you as far as the economic survey is concerned? And then I will go to the budget part. Just your initial reactions. What are the top 3 things that stands out for you in this economic survey?
No, I think the assessment of the economy, the fact that I think the external balances are much more healthy, that there is room for acceleration, that foreign currency reserves are good. I think the assessment of the economy is I think right on the ball. Maybe we can move to the budget discussions.
Right, right. And sir, talking about the budget, capex is going to be the focus point this time as well. We know that the government allocated 11.11 lakh crore last time, and there is expectation, considering the fiscal headroom that this government has now, maybe this capex will be increased by 40,000 crore. What is your sense? What the capex number looks like for you?
That's a very important consideration for the government, that versus the vote on account, there is about give or take 1.5 lakh crores of extra funds that the government needs to make a decision on, because there is 1.26 lakh crores of extra dividend from the Reserve Bank of India. There is likelihood of much better personal income tax collections. There is likelihood of better dividends from other public sector undertakings. At the same time, they should offset some of the slightly weaker than what was assumed in the vote on account collections on corporate tax and GST. Net, they should have about 1.5 lakh crores to work with. Now, the key consideration, in my view, will be that if something is one-off, like the RBI dividend may not sustain forever at this high level, it should be spent in a one-off way, meaning that you can't take that 1.26 lakh crores extra and then start an income transfer scheme because you're not sure whether that dividend will be at the same level next year or not. So as you think about options which can be one-off in nature, it becomes very obvious that I think that the government will try to bring down the fiscal deficit. Remember that in January, the government felt that when they were working on the vote on account, that the economy could withstand a 70 basis points, which is 0.7% points of GDP of fiscal consolidation. So given that the provisional deficit in FY24 was 5.6 and not 5.8, which was there in the revised estimates, 70 basis points on there means that the deficit for FY25 would be brought down to 4.9%. So that will absorb about 80,000 crores of that 1.5 lakh crores. The rest, I think about 40,000 crores would be an increase in the interest-free loans that the center offers to state governments for doing capital expenditure. Because some of these, the areas on which the central government can spend, which is national highways, railways, telecom, major ports and airports, most of these, I would say to some extent, are maxed out. So national highways, I think the constraint now is that, building more than 20,000 kilometers a year is perhaps not necessary. On the railway side, I think the government has managed to accelerate capex,
right,
but it will take a while for it to accelerate further. So the best thing to do perhaps would be to hand it over to the states, because they have many, many more things that they can spend on: urban infra, rural infra, irrigation. There are many other areas where the state governments can do capex. So that's how I think the capex numbers will shift.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mishra. I will not drag it, and maybe I will catch hold of you post-budget and to have an at-length discussion about the various aspects of the budget. So thank you so much as of now for joining us and speaking to Republic Business and sparing time out.
Thank you.